Life is nice. You call me stranger. I call myself salvation.
The love of a god is not a blessing, it's a scar.
If destiny herself beckons me, then I shall greet her like an old lover.
There's gotta be more to life than making mistakes and making up for your mistakes.
I'm the paragon of risk and reward, behaving as more of a suggestion.
Fate is an offer I intend to reject.
You don't know me. I'm unpredictable, bitch.
I don't need to be a paragon to help save the world.
I came back for a reason, and I am not stopping until I find it.
I will solve the cataclysm, and I'll solve the mystery of myself, too. 4 paragons, 4 keepers, 1 stranger. Huh. Odds are in our favor. Now let's go save Endake.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Arc 7, Episode 7 of Transplanar RPGs, The Second Stranger. This is the second to last episode ever of Arc 7 of our show, and I'm so excited to share it with you all. I am your game master and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me all across the internet at by Connie Chong. That's BYCONNIECHANG, namely TikTok, Twitter, Itch, and Ko-Fi. I'm going to pass along introductions along for the final time in this constellation of players, up and over to Quinn.
Hi, hello, I'm Quinn. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on Twitter at Quintastic_ with 3 ins and an underscore, baby. You can find all about my work and stuff there. Today, I will be playing Sitlali, your local grave cleric and paladin of the weave, who has never done anything wrong in their entire life. Ever. I swear. I promise. Roll insight. I dare you. And they use they, she pronouns, and I will pass intros over to Erica.
Hi everybody, I'm Erica, she, her pronouns, and I play Vasanti Nakshurzo, the draconic sorcerer who's going through some. Is she V? Is she Vasanti? Who the heck is she? I don't know. You can find me at Erica Newgirl on Twitter, and you can find me here on Twitch at Erica Please, PLZ, where I stream a variety of things, although I'm doing a lot of Red Dead Redemption RP, so if you like gay cowboys trying to go through life, come check me out sometime. I'll pass it over to Max.
Hey y'all, I'm Max. My pronouns are they, them. I played Dewey Quirk, the character I should not have picked a daddy issues battle with mixed D and daddy issues over there. And he's losing them. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Starchmonger. Pass it to Humna.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Humna and I use any and all pronouns and I am a TTRPG performer. You can find me on Twitter at hshahid_, where I talk about all of the different projects that I'm a part of. And today I will be playing Jaron Gadler, who uses they, he pronouns, our Dragonborn rogue artificer bard who just said no to being keeper. Erica, tell us the other keeper. I don't know how to do a transition from here. Erica, go!
Yes, we are proud to announce that this episode of The Second Stranger is sponsored by Dimitri Opines and Explain Trade, a negotiation skills training consultancy believing in the power of D&D and Transplanar's potential to grow, tell great stories, and lift our community up. Explain Trade trains negotiators for governments, big companies, NGOs, and offers e-learning courses for individuals looking to get a better deal from their boss. Check them out at explaintrade.com. And Max, you have some more thanks to give.
I have so many thanks for our wonderful Patreon Paragons, and those are people pledged to our highest tier on Patreon. Those folks are Alex, Azra, Bradley, Brooke Bright, Charles, Chiakres, Cora Eckert, Emma, Hat, Kunding, Lex Slater, Mobilis, Purple Mouse, Scruffus, and Targot. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it so much. Quinn, tell me what happened last time. Help me relive it.
Course, Max. Last time on The Second Stranger, Jaron, Sitlali, Vasanti, Dewey, and Rev regroup in the wake of Adam's death and the fight against the Myriad. Tensions are high, and with Mother's blessing slowly destroying Jaron's soul, nobody is happy. The party finally confronts Lilith and Hana, who wants nothing to do with her father despite his attempts. In the ensuing encounter, Lilith tears them all to shreds because she's an empath on steroids and can see all of their flaws laid out clearly. Having a normal day. Drawn rejects keepership at a pivotal moment, and Lilith cuts his blood oath. Tired of toying with the party, Lilith sends them all into Eden. And that's what you missed last time. Use exclamation point recap in chat to reach our written recap document. And Humna, tell us about today's title, please, darling.
Yes, as always, the titles of our episodes come from lines of poetry written by marginalized creators of all stripes, and today's title is terrifying. Multidimensional Radial Hemorrhage from When I Was a Poet by Justin Philip Reed. And the full verse reads as follows. Strap in, it's a bit of a long one. In darkness, mine was not a linear condition. Mine was the express mission of uncountable spirits reaching in ceaselessly to relink their fingers. I was architect like a multidimensional radial hemorrhage. I dilated on all axes like a dahlia and was a field of this. And then fell the fallacy that the dirt I worked and from which I ate and into which I was delivered to be devoured could not possibly vibrate the notes of my brute living. So spoke the beast out of the void in its god costume. In my ears, the blood murmured.
Thank you for that, Humna. And now moving on to content warnings for this particular episode and our campaign in general. They may include fantasy violence, body horror, gore, blood and bloodletting, apocalypse, trauma and grief, death of loved ones, familial struggles, complex and complicated relationships, romance and references to sexual entanglement, medical experimentation, monsters and monstrosity, and a teenager in danger. So, our cast lines do include harm to children, and while this arc does feature a youth in a dangerous situation, please be assured above the table that she will never be put in an actively harmful situation or come to any harm herself. She's also not being manipulated or mentally controlled by an adult or anyone else and is in full agency and capacity of herself. So use exclamation point CW for a full list of all our content warnings, exclamation point safety for a look at our cast lines and veils, and exclamation point HANA, HANA, for a reminder of that particular content warning. And with that out of the way, let's begin. On the cultivation of the garden. Personal log, hair 391 AT. As I have discussed before, the journey is a meandering, pointless, painful framework for reality that refutes purpose in favor of discovery. This act of spontaneous growth is exciting, but inequitable. Some are born rich, others poor. Some are born on starving plains, others are born insects, animals, trapped in a hellish cycle of survival, fear, pain, death. Fairness is not a precept. It is not even a priority. When we journey, we desire, we seek, we yearn, we are, and we suffer for it. If not us, then someone else, somewhere else. I dream of a world superior, an explosion of greenery, leaves fanning open in supplication, grass welling from pliant earth, trembling in the clement wind, a stream, babbling branches, whispering birdsong, traveling the breeze. Light, warm and nourishing, pouring through clouds, trickling down a gentle slope, dancing across the surface of rivers. The rich, dark smell of wet earth everywhere. Here, at the top of the hill, my entire garden will be visible. Its boundless sprawl, the cedars, the fence post, the rows and rows of immaculate possibilities. Every petal in bloom, every color at the height of its season, always. And the bees, small, whirring, bumbling things, legs brimming with pollen, butterflies oscillating from flower to flower, mice whistling. Through the grass, a snake coiling, on the back of a rock, scales breathing. Nothing wants, nothing craves, nothing dies. There is no chaos of magic here, no inequity of fate. Only warmth, only awareness, pollen, birdsong. No sentience, no suffering. Vasanti, you are in the garden. You are on a lush hill, all whispering breeze and tall waving stalks of grass. The sky is blue. The sun is warm. And a river circles the base of this slope, sparkling. Rev isn't here. Dewey isn't here. Sitlali isn't here. Jaran isn't here. Voska isn't here. Abiku isn't here. Gentle isn't here. Oka isn't here. Lotus isn't here. Sievert isn't here. Tyrion isn't here. Paya isn't here. It's just you. Standing at the top of this hill, looking at the beautiful world beneath you, just you. You are the only person here. You're the only person who has ever been here. You are alone. Completely alone. Completely safe. Here in the garden, no one can hurt you. No one can lie to you. No one can use you. No one can break your heart. Tell me, Vasanti, what perfect and horrifying feeling washes over you?
I think initially Vasanti is enjoying the brief tranquility after everything that was just happening a moment ago. And the first thought that comes through her head next that causes her entire heart to just sink is that moment she kissed Rev outside of a hotel room. That moment where she was laying in Lotus's arms after their wedding night. The moment that Oka saved her life after that first meeting with Sievert in Davathati so long ago. And she just realizes that she was trying to make a bargain with Lilith to come here. She was willing to give up Scott and Nectus. She realizes she was trying to survive in the way that she used to know how to do very well, which was she comes first. But now that she's here and like all alone, she realizes this is not what she wants at all. This is not being with the people she loves. This isn't what makes her happy in life. She thinks about that moment with Tyrion where she was about to deal the final blow after he tried to kill her and nearly succeeded, and she had made a promise to herself in that moment just before she passed out to never want to be like that ever again. She didn't want to be like Tyrion. She didn't want to be like V anymore. And she realizes like this is not worth any deal she could have made with Lilith. This is not where she wants to be at all. So she starts looking around. Is there an exit here? Is there some way to get out of here? What does she have to do? She's like panicked now. It's like, okay, I have to figure out how to get out of this. Where do I go? What do I see? What do I do? And I think she's just looking around for something, a direction of where to go.
You see grass. You see water. You
You see the little fluttering wings of butterflies. You feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. You smell the sweet breeze drifting past your face. And you are alone, Vasanti. There's no pain here. There's no joy. Sitlali, you are in the garden. You are not in the garden. You are somewhere. You are nowhere. The breeze is cool against your fur. A grasshopper perches on your stem. Your water gurgles. Your wings pulse. Your claws knit the ground. You blow across a field. You shine onto the earth and you absorb your own warmth. You are a god. You are more than a god. You are an architect of this mode of existence, overseeing the development of everything. You are everything. You are the rock and the snake that coils upon it, the grass and the mouse that eats it, the water and the fish, the breeze and the sun. You are a precept. Here, in the garden, you are everything, and you are nothing. You were, you are, you will be, you will never. Sitlali, tell me what perfect and horrifying feeling washes over you.
I think Sitlali is at first extremely overstimulated by all of this because that's a lot of things to be at once. After they take a moment to take all of the everything and nothing in, they start, well, they never stopped, did they? Thinking about all of the possibilities, and they make a couple little changes here and there. Prefer clouds in this part of the sky, and they happen. Prefer moss over here. This tree needs some moss, and that happens. Time should move a little, and they start getting to work.
What do you make?
I think Sitlali makes foxes first. And like, absurd colors. Changeling off the string, what crimes will they commit? Like giant foxes, tiny foxes, pastel foxes, Vanta black foxes. Yes, I own that now in this universe. And Sitlali just makes, and I think just starts playing and experimenting and gets very lost in the concept of being everything and nothing and allows the concept of self to kind of distance, I think.
Yeah, the concept of self kind of erodes under the crushing, beautiful pressure of omnipresence. And as these foxes burst into existence across this perfect realm, they are immaculate and they are terrible. They have no desire. Sitlali, my precept, they have no will of their own, no sapience. Really, they are simply there. They just are. They could never disappoint you. They could never surprise you. You know what they are going to do before they do it. You know how they will end, which is never and always. There's no terror here. There's no true surprise. No spontaneity, no suffering, no happiness. Charon, you are in the garden, and you are in pain. You kneel at the base of a shrine dedicated to you, to your sacrifice, to your immaculate divine suffering. The strings that once hung from your horns now wrap your limbs like razor wire. Black blood courses from your wounds, but this sting is nothing compared to the unadulterated agony ripping your chest. The emptiness, snarling, eating your organs alive from the inside out. The tether has snapped. This final protection shielding you from the true pain of mother's blood is gone. It is no more. And now, every nerve, every cell, every particle of your body writhes in agony. This is suffering beyond comprehension. This is the greatest pain you have ever felt in your life. This is suffering beyond sapience, beyond personhood. This pain is unbearable. And yet, it keeps them safe. That's right. Them. Sitlali, Mercy, Gentle, Dewy, Vasanti, Voska, Biku, Oka. It keeps them safe. In the garden, you suffer eternal so they can be happy, so they can thrive. Their joy depends on your pain. What perfect and horrifying feeling washes over you?
The threads that are binding Duran in this moment, cutting into his skin, I think they feel familiar in an unfamiliar way. They remind them of the blood tether coiled around his soul, coiled around his body, holding him tightly, warmly, painfully. And I think this feeling as the threads tighten around him and blood, mother's blood, pours out of his wounds, it reminds him of the worst parts of loving anybody he's ever loved. The worst parts of loving their parents, of loving Oka, Gentle, Sitlali, everyone. It's the vicious in tender vicious, and it's familiar, it's safe, but it hurts.
This pain is the only thing you can focus on. You know, you're aware that in this garden, your pain helps everyone else thrive. But there's so much of it, Duran. It is eating you. It is devouring you, hollowing you from the inside out. Mother's blessing, that miniature seed of annihilation in your chest continues to expand, and this pain is the worst pain you have ever felt in your life. You don't know if it will ever end.
And I think Duran tries to move, kneeling at the base of this statue, but movement only serves to constrict the threads tighter, to push further, to make the wounds cut even deeper. And they realize that the best thing that they can do for anyone, the best thing they can do for themselves, is to do nothing.
And as these threads continue to bind you, as that hole in your chest continues to widen, as agony sears through your entire body, your soul, your mind, we see black rivulets of this blood dribble down your body, splash into a funnel, tumble down the base of these stairs at the very bottom of this shrine, and feed a beautiful garden in this temple, your blood watering the soil so the flowers can grow. Dewey, you are in the garden. You're in a house. Your house. And so are they. Uilani is cooking, and Hana is at the dining room table, 7 years old forever, drawing on a blueprint with a crayon. The table is set. You sit at the head. Hana looks up, smiles at you, wide and to thee in earnest. Uilani kisses you, sits. Hana says, "I love you, Dad." Uilani says, "I love you, Dewey." You start to eat. There is a seam in the backs of their necks, a place where the consciousness you manufactured meets chassis. They were made to love you, to admire you, forever, unconditionally. Here in the garden, you are sweet, and you are kind, and you will never let them down. What perfect and horrifying feeling washes over you?
Dissatisfaction. This is everything Dewey wanted. He wanted to go back in time. He wanted to go back to what he had. And now he has it. Everything is perfect. And it's all wrong. And everything he thought about himself and what he was working towards is wrong. And he sits at this table eating dinner with these strangers.
There is a pause as this feeling of wrongness, of unease, of discomfort, dissatisfaction rises up in your body. And these perfect simulacrums of your wife and child pause. And this copy of your wife looks at you and says, in a perfect resemblance of her voice, "Did I do something wrong? Did we do something wrong? Does our form not please you? We can change."
There's just a moment of temptation for Dewey. Wouldn't it be so much easier if they were the ones who had to change? If they were the ones who did something wrong? And he sees he's lifted himself out of his chair. He knows the seam is in the back. And he's begun to crane his neck around. But he just shakes his head, catches himself, and sits back down at the table.
And these perfect android replicas of Hana and Uolani smile back at you. And Hana says she loves you again. And so does Uolani. And they go back to eating. And then the door opens. And Hana walks in. 14 years old, peering around the threshold, cautious, a little scared, a little anxious, but there. She's wearing a lab coat. It's stained with something. Her hair is a little frizzy, out of place. She's not perfect like everything else in here is. She looks real. Must be this one. Dewey? Is that the real you? Dad?
I don't know. What are you doing here?
It is you, isn't it? And Hana takes a few steps forward, glancing around at this perfectly put together kitchen, the cutlery, the cookware, the exposed bulbs. It's you, isn't it? And she reaches out a tentative hand to touch your shoulder.
You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be seeing this.
Oh, so this is your garden, huh? Your perfect vision of Eden that she's exploiting. What is that, a seam? Even in perfection, you still leave telltale signs of your own invention.
She's wrong. This isn't what I want.
This is what a part of you wants. Maybe not the right part, Dewey. Maybe not the whole part. Maybe not the part that you want to cultivate, but this is still a part inside of you. Just like my garden is a part inside of me. I'm here to get you out of here, Dewey. I am angry at you, okay? I'm angry and I'm sad. I'm really sad. But what you said back in the workshop chamber in front of Lilith, I know she tricked you. I could tell you were telling the truth. And I know she hurt you. She did take you from me, from Uolani. And a part of me does wish, yes, it does feel hurt that you didn't try harder, I guess, but it wasn't... I know you didn't want to leave. And I know she's hurting other people right now. So, I'm here... I guess I'm here to help or something.
Dewey reaches out and puts his hand on Hana's shoulder. Just to make sure she's real. This isn't just another figment of his imagination.
And she almost startles at your touch, but then picks up your hand and places it on the back of her neck. And you feel that it's completely smooth.
I'd like that. I need your help.
Yeah, you do. I'm the only one who knows as much about the precepts and oblivion and magic and fate as Lilith does, because she's never hidden anything from me, but... Dewey. Dad. I don't think Lilith can change. I've been around her long enough. She's really set in her vision. I don't think there's anything anyone can say in any constellation of words that can convince her she's wrong. But I think you can change. And that you have changed. And all I ever wanted was for you to change and care about different things, have different priorities, and come back. And you're back. Seeing you here, trying, I'm still mad, okay? I'm still hurt, I'm still sad, I'm still grieving everything we've lost, but trying to fix this, trying to help you, letting you help me, it feels better than pretending like you never existed at all.
I promise I'm gonna spend the rest of however long I have making it up to you.
Well, we do have to make sure to stop Lilith and Oblivion, the stranger, and all of that first. But, here. And she holds out a hand for you to take.
Dewey takes one last look at his wife and younger Hana, and then turns and takes Hana's hand.
And she leads you out of the door. And when you step outside, Dewey, when your foot crosses over the threshold, you are in a beautiful, sweeping meadow, rolling hills, tall grasses swaying in the breeze, rows and rows and rows and rows of perfect trees, perfect flowers, perfect crops. You turn and the house is no more. And here, at the top of this hill, looking over everything, the sweet breeze, the gentle pollen, the warm light, Hana drops your hand, looks back at you urgently, and says, I was able to reach you because I know you, Dad. I still have love for you. I do. I still am connected to you, but I don't really know the people you came here with. I think only you can really reach out to them. So, Dewey, who do you find in Eden? Which of the other PCs do you help?
Do I only get to do one?
Yes, for now.
Dewey stands and scans the horizon. He's not sure what Hana means by this, how he's supposed to do this, but as he turns around, there is a hill, and there is a tall, light-haired elven woman standing on it. The only thing breaking up the smooth horizon, he puts a hand over his eyes and he goes, what is Vasanti doing up there, all by herself?
And as soon as you see Vasanti, you see him too. A little blue blip on the horizon underneath you, the only point of movement aside from yourself, even as this crushing solitude begins to settle in you. Dewey, inexplicably, there, you see him. What do you do?
I think Vasanti is so excited to see someone else around that she's going to take a moment and let her dragon wings slowly come out from behind her, and she's going to fly as fast as she can to this little blue blip and just be screaming, Dewey, is that you? And then as she gets closer though, she's slows and gets a little more suspicious, you are Dewey, right?
Yeah, who else would be here in this? And he takes the hem of his Paragon robes and lifts them aside, and he's like, who else would be wearing cargo shorts in your Eden?
It is Dewey. All right. Yeah, the cargo shorts, you've sold me. All right. How did you get here?
How did you are you the only one?
Yes, I've just been walking all over looking for anybody. There's been nobody. I've been all alone.
Well, you're here, I'm here, Hana's here.
I still don't know understand how you got here.
It's really hard to explain. It's pretty dense theory. There's quantum physics and also metaphysical magic at work, ontological weave making. It's a long story, but I'm glad you're here, Vasanti, right? Now where are the rest of your crew? And as Hana speaks Vasanti, you feel something tugging at you. Something beyond Dewey, beyond Hana, as Hana brings up, where's the rest of your crew? And you feel one of them. Who do you help?
I think Vasanti feels It's that similar feeling of like Scott and Nectis wrapping around her heart and squeezing her when she has to follow her heart. And she just turns to Dewey and Hana and is like, follow me this way. And she quickly goes. And I think over maybe a small hill, we see a statue of Duran and this dragonborn kneeling in front of it. And they see Duran suffering there.
Yes, and you also see rows and rows and rows and rows, I think, of like these beautifully manicured flowers that are being fed, watered by Duran's pain. And as you approach, it's almost like Duran bleeds into existence, and so does their Eden. Like, your Edens are not in the same place. They are, but they're not. They're like spheres suspended within spheres. And through, I think, the bond of this friendship, of this relationship you have with each other, you're able to connect these disparate spheres of reality with each other and pull each other in. And as you draw closer, it's like time and space bend, and you're suddenly there next to Duran. And Duran, the darkness of the temple around you fades, gives room to light, sun, breeze, sky, and there she is, Vasanti.
Vasanti?
Duran.
Is that really you?
It is, Duran. What's going on here?
I'm not really sure. I can't move.
And I think Vasanti would quickly move over and kneel beside Duran and see if there's anything she can do or understand about what's going on to Duran right now.
I think there is like an innate understanding, especially with Scott and Nectis starting to rear up and roil within you. You see these threads of pain binding Duran, and you see them. They're connected to that massive statue of themselves behind them. And the statue is crying, black blood streaming out of stone eyes, just like Duran in flesh and blood is also doing. And I think there's an intimate understanding of what's happening here. Duran is so bound to suffering, to this pain, right? To their own agony, right? And this belief that this pain is what waters these flowers and lets them grow. And you, Vasanti, I think you know how to break them out of that.
Vasanti takes a moment and says, you know, Duran, you don't have to suffer to help those that you love. And as she says that, she's just like softly casting firebolt across these threads to like try to help burn them away. But it's less so about the magic and what Vasanti is saying to Duran of like, sometimes, yes, we have to put our lives on the line for those that we love, and other times we just have to trust that they're going to be okay and that we don't need to put ourselves on the line every single time to try to save them.
And as Vasanti says this and casts firebolt over the threads, I think the fire spreads to the part of the threads that are binding Duran, and they don't hurt them, but they feel warm. They feel like Vasanti is giving Duran a hug without actually hugging him, and the threads start to fade away, and I think the fire of Vasanti's magic maybe like cauterizes some of these wounds as well to staunch the bleeding, to staunch the flow. And he looks up at her and he holds out a hand, eyes still black, crying mother's blood. He holds out a hand, asking for help to stand up.
I think Vasanti's going to take, one hand underneath to grab it and then puts her other hand on top of it and kind of just whispers in Duran's ear, Oka would be so proud of you right now, and helps Duran up.
And I think when Duran stands up, they actually fall into Vasanti, and they just kind of stay there, leaning up against Vasanti for support, emotional and physical at this point, just for a moment longer before we need to go.
Duran feels Vasanti sort of embrace and just squeeze just ever so tightly, and whispers, it's gonna be okay. Almost the way that Oka would always sort of comfort Vasanti whenever Oka rescued Vasanti after huge battles or whatever, and then tries to help lead Duran away from the statue.
As you walk away from this site, it's sort of like
crumbles, not into dust, but it just sort of bleeds out of existence, right? Like fades away, like someone pulling down the dimmers of the statue, the soil, the blood-drenched earth just disappearing. And Duran, those final gossamer threads binding you to that statue disappear, but that searing, central, pulsing, beating agony in your chest remains. And as it pulses one more time, I think you're leaning against Vasanti for support. Something else pulls at you, some other precognition, some connection, some bond to Sitlali. Yes, Sitlali is still out there, but where? How do you help them?
When we all come upon Sitlali's garden, these beautiful feats, really, of nature all around us, I think the first thing Duran sees is a giant wolf, the same pastel pink as Sitlali's magic. And that's how he knows that Sitlali is here. Sitlali's magic touches literally everything all around us, and having traveled with them for so long, having experienced it, I think they innately recognize it. And Duran walks up to this wolf, cautiously at first, with a hand out, and if the wolf allows, will place his hand along its muzzle and will say to it, to the wind, to the ground, to everything really and nothing all at once, Sitlali, I'm here. We're all here. Let us take you home.
And the wolf cocks its head to one side and looks at you, Duran. It speaks, but you also hear their voice from everything and nowhere. Why? There's something about infinity that feels correct. Multitudes tied up in knots inside a body. It never felt correct. It's like there's too much of me to keep in one place.
You've never been in one place, Sitlali. You've always been in all of our hearts. In my heart, in Gentle's heart, in Oka's heart, in Mercy's heart. You've never been just inside yourself.
And the breeze moved a little harder at that. All I do is hurt people, and the wolf starts to walk away.
I think Duran follows and gets in front of the wolf, gently caressing its snout, even if it bares its teeth, even if it goes to do anything remotely antagonistic. I think Duran stands their ground. You are a person, just like everyone else. I know that everything that you have done has been because you care about all of us. And I'm just asking that you let me care about you.
I think the sun goes down and the stars come out. More stars than there usually are in Endake. New constellations. And the wolf shrinks a little. And it whimpers. And it looks up at you, Duran, with these puppy dog eyes. I don't know how to say no to this.
Duran takes the wolf. I think he kneels down onto the ground and takes the wolf in his arms so that they're hugging, and gently kisses the wolf on the fur. You don't have to have all of the answers, Sitlali. Sometimes it's okay not to know.
Even right now, like this, I can't quite figure out the magic behind it, and it can't be, it's not permanent, surely, but it's like, how do you reverse it? Why would I reverse it? How does it work? How do I make the stars move?
And I think Duran takes the wolf's snout, leans back, and looks into its eyes, looks into Sitlali's eyes. You don't belong here, Sitlali. You are so much more than everything that you know, every way that you're useful. You are perfect, just the way you are, in every instance of the way that you are, because you are constantly changing, and that's beautiful. Come home, Sitlali.
And I think the stars start to go out. And I think the wolf turns into Sitlali. The Sitlali we're used to. And they are crying. And I think she just buries her face in Geron's chest.
And Geron lets them, holds them tight, probably tighter than they've ever held Sitlali before, and just sits there with her until she is ready to move again.
The dark trees around you vanish. The brand new moss at their stumps going also. The last remnants of perfectly partitioned cloud disappear. And these tall fingers of trees that had cropped up out of nowhere in Sitlali's garden also come down and fall away, revealing all of you standing under a star-lit meadow. Fewer constellations than before, but they're still there. A remnant, I think, of Sitlali's influence back when she had attained some illusion of precepthood. And as these final vestiges of each of your gardens vanish, a row of blood-watered flowers here, an isolated hill there, the last timbers of a lonely little cottage over there, and of course, the final bristles of pinkish fur vanishing into the night. You all also see Rev. She's kneeling over a patch of hollow ground, looking down, feathered cape trailing over her broad form, head hanging low. Takes in a deep breath, exhales, and she rises. And we see just a glimpse of her, Eden, vanishing as well, two graves next to each other. She turns around to look at your group. She nods. Intimately, instinctually, like all of you, understanding what's just happened. As she approaches your group, all of you also hear a familiar voice coming out in an unfamiliar way. Instead of resonating in all of your heads, it comes from a single source. Directly behind Dewey. Dad? And Dewey, you turn around to see Dusty with a body. Dusty is a kind of awkwardly proportioned teenage person. They've got a little patch of, I think, like a little scruffy beard, like some facial hair is starting to grow in, and their lashes are really long, and their hair is kind of curly and thick and unkempt. They're really round and chubby and cherubically faced, and they're just sort of like standing there, I think, in just like a tunic and a skirt. They look like they're really stiff, like they don't know what to do with their body, and they're like looking at you with wide eyes, Dewey. And they're quite short.
Hi, were you here this whole time?
I don't really know. Wow, that's weird. What's this? And their hand goes up to their throat where they're like stroking their vocal cords, like they're not used to using them.
When did you... Are you here for good? Are you...
I don't know. I just know that Lilith sent us somewhere, and then I was kind of floating around in space. I think I was inside a table, and then I suddenly had a body. But there wasn't anyone around. It was just me with my body, and then all of you are here now, and I have a body. Oh my god, this is so weird. I have fingers? You can move them each, like one by one. Why didn't anyone ever tell me that you can move your fingers independently of each other? Why didn't I ever think of that?
I'll have to explain how all of that works. Can you walk? We're gonna head out of this place pretty soon.
And Dusty takes a few steps forward and falls face flat, just like completely flat on the ground. Ouch! Ouch! I didn't like that. And Dusty like pushes up, and we see like like their face has like some grass on it. That hurt. I've never hurt before.
That's part of being a person, I think. We'll have time to explore all of this in a little bit. And Dewey like brushes some of the dirt and grass off of Dusty's face.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Dad. But how the heck did this happen? Why do I have a body here? And why did it just happen? And ontological magic. It weaves you whatever it thinks is your own perfect version of the garden, which is a framework for reality that Lilith wants to use to replace the journey. Hi, nice to meet all of you again. I'm Hana. I am Dewey's daughter, and we can talk about our relationship after all of this, Dusty, but I'm not quite ready to unpack that just yet. But there's something I have to tell all of you. We can't just come out of the garden and confront Lilith willy-nilly. There's something you don't know. There's something I need to tell all of you. Several things, actually. Lilith she's in the middle of completing her ritual. All right, and it's a ritual of guidance. She's feeding souls to the seed so she can guide it up here out of the chasm. These souls that she's consecrating to the empty are essentially acting as a breadcrumb trail to get the seed up to Endake. It doesn't have any needs or wants or desires or way of movement on its own. It needs to be pushed one way or another. Lilith has described it as a weapon, a creature, and an object. All three of these things at the same time, and I kind of think what she's getting at. But that's what the ritual does. And once it's complete, well, then the seed is gonna come out, and well, that's not good. Speaking also of not good, don't quite know how to break this news exactly, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. The Paragon prophecy, that's a lie. That's not true. That's fake. Lilith did that. She seeded the prophecy into the fabric of reality with some of the preceptual magic she learned from Oblivion. So if the Paragons and the God Shards sacrifice yourselves, then you'll be helping the seed to bloom. Because once the seed emerges, once it comes out, it's gonna just start eating stuff. But if it gets your souls, and she turns to you, Dewey, and you, Vasanti, and the God Shards inside of you, now that you're fully realized Paragons, then that's it. That's game over. The journey is done.
So we don't let the Paragons die.
They can't. Even if just one Paragon on their God Shard is eaten by the seed, that would be really bad. That's enough energy probably to eat a world.
Hana, you have worked with Lilith the closest out of anyone. What do you know about this seed? About Lilith's plans with it? How can we stop it?
I have an idea for how we can maybe, I don't know, it's mostly theoretical. You know, Dad, when you come up with a theory that should work based on, the laws of physics and stuff, but you're scared to do it. Like, for example, the first people who built artificial wings, and they did all the calculations, and they were like, well, but we should fly, but there's still, an element of risk. That's kind of what I'm pitching. It should work. All the theory is right. I've studied her long enough. I've run the calculations. The arithmetic holds, but... So Oblivion is a precept, right? Do we know what a precept is? Have we covered that?
I don't know. I've never heard of a precept.
Right, okay. So we've got mortals, right? We've got people here in the now, and we've got emissaries, and we've got gods, right? And the creation story of Endake is that the 8 made Endake and populated with people, yada, 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 yada. So the question then becomes, who made the gods? What force was here before there was a before? And it's mostly just been a theory of people who study meta magic, right? Lots of sorcerers, lots of wizards, lots of, whatever. But a precept is essentially, they're not gods. They're more powerful than gods. They're more permanent than gods. They exist beyond existence. They're concepts. They are rules of reality and non-reality. And Oblivion, which is the stranger, is a precept. Lilith calls it Oblivion the first precept that there's ever been. There are 3 as far as I know. There are 2 others. And my idea for how we can maybe stop Oblivion and prevent this is if we get their help. The help of the other 2 precepts. There's Fate the second and Magic the third.
But how do we get their help?
It's not so easy, because after the cataclysm, the reason why the stars were gone and all that is because that was the nothing plane. It's the never. It is a
It is a non-reality that Oblivion drew down and folded around the now, severing it from the after and the beyond. Your ritual on the Adolin that just happened brought back the after, but the beyond and everything beyond the beyond, other worlds, the multitude of planes and universes out there, they still can't reach us. Oblivion has hidden Andake, the now, the after now, from fate and magic being able to perceive us. But here's where my calculations come in. I think I can get a message through. I know enough about how the Nothing Plane works. I've never been there personally, but Lilith has told me in great detail about the theory of how it works. I know enough about the theorems of preceptual magic and about Lilith to feel, I think, fairly confident. I think it's like an 80 to 90% confidence rate about getting a message past that barrier, shooting it somewhere beyond so maybe fate and magic can hear us and come and help.
Does the weave reach magic? Or is it just an afterthought, an aftermath, an imprint of magic when this plane was constructed?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer that question as quickly as I can without taking too much time, which is, so the journey, which I've referred to several times now, is it's reality. Journey is a metaphor for how reality currently works. The journey is the set of rules and the logic that undergirds how all existence exists. The journey was created by fate and magic. And it doesn't end. It's a journey, right? The point of it isn't to get somewhere, it's to just go, right? And that's, the weave. The weave is an imprint of magic, the third. It's a manifestation of his presence. But it's not him, but it also is. So maybe it could help. You're a paladin of the weave, right? You could help me get that message out there. I think that would be useful, yeah.
Just tell me, before I agree to this, do I have to die for this to work? Because I've done that a couple of times, and I just
Why would you have to do that? No. What?
I had to go to the after a couple of times. It's a don't worry about it.
Right. The time loop in Jukai. Lilith was telling me about that. Some weird things were happening there. Right. Yes. No. You shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself for this.
That's probably for the best.
The rest of you, how you can help is, well, once I get us back out of the garden, Lilith is gonna notice. She's gonna notice I left, and she's gonna notice that I brought you all back. She can't notice me sending this message. She can interrupt just like that. She's really strong, everyone. She's a really strong caster and magician and mage, even without the nothing helping her. So what the rest of you can do to help, honestly, distracting her, that would be it. That would be huge. I just need a few moments to put the message together and send it.
We can do that.
Definitely do that.
Capture
Do
her
we?
attention with some choice words. Could do that.
Yeah, anything.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Do you need to be anywhere in particular in order to send this message? Do we need to protect a runic circle or, I don't know?
Well, the workshop chamber has a lot of components I can use. I can grab some tubes from there, wires from there. I'll be running all over the place, just distract her from the fact that I'm moving, I think would be the best thing. There is also the matter of writing the message itself. I could get past the barrier, but what we put in the message has to get fate and magic's attention. There's a lot of things trying to get their attention all the time. Think of everyone who ever uses magic, everyone who's ever prayed to fate. They're constantly fielding like 1,000 different things. They're everywhere and nowhere at once. It's a lot. So this message also has to be special. So I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I'm not an artist, I'm an inventor, like a song, I don't know, or maybe and Dusty chimes in and says, what if we put together a dance or some sort of performance or...
I have an idea. Well, I have studied linguistics quite a bit, and I have learned how to make ciphers, but also I know how to weave, like Morozin weaving, not magic weaving, although that too. We could literally weave a message in a cipher. Ideally, that would also buy you time, and that maybe Lilith wouldn't be able to decipher it.
That's a great idea. But I think for this message to really hit too, I think maybe all of you should put something in it. I don't know, something to draw them to Endgame, right? There are an literal infinity of existences out there, all clamoring for their attention. We have to make Endgame stand out. Something about this place is special. Lilith has always said this place is special. It's special. So I'm thinking maybe we get the tapestry together, the weave, your idea, Jaron, and then maybe we could do something with whatever your god jar can make, Dewey, and as Hana continues to talk and theorize and sort of like spew lore and sort of like spew ideas out, Jaron, everything kind of goes dark. It just sort of like dims. Like lights in a theater sort of like shutting down. And you can still see their faces, but they're like cast in shadow. And it's almost like as soon as like the lights go down around everyone, they just pause and they stop moving. Like they're in the middle of talking. You can see like Vasanti thinking and like Lily nodding and like also looking intently. Dewey looking at his daughter, like Dusty looking excited, and then Hana frozen in the middle of animated speech. And then goosh, a spotlight, a literal spotlight coming out of nowhere, turns on, illuminates you in a pillar of radiance, like you're illuminated on a stage. And then two other spotlights turn on next to you, and one of them lights up on a person, a half-elf, with this tan skin, a smattering of thick red freckles all over their body, this crimson hair braided back in a lean whip, all brawny muscle and a smirk, various scars. And the other spotlight illuminates a lavender-colored tiefling person. Leather armor, they've got a set of bagpipes strung across her back, these long horns, one of which is broken off, and a pure gaze. And Scud, under one spotlight, and Nectus under the other, turn to look at you. And this is the most, well, human, or people-like, they've ever manifested in front of you, ever. And they look surprised. Scud is sort of like cocking their head to the side, eyeing you up and down, says, Well, I am impressed. Jaron, Cotter, you've been holding on for so long. I'm surprised you can even get words out with that thing in your chest.
And I think Jaron is like still reeling from the shock of what is going on. They kind of like crane their head a little bit to check on the tableau that is in the back, and it's like still paused, still there, and then kind of confusedly look back at Scott. I have people to help me with that.
It's still a really heavy burden. That pain. It's not anything I would wish on anyone. Don't worry about your friends. This isn't real. Well, it is. It's happening in your head, but that doesn't mean it's not real necessarily. We're talking to you. We're freezing several of your neurons so we can have this conversation without disrupting the flow of the greater conversation. Scott, that's a very intimidating way to put it. Jaron, we just wanted to say I'm sad. I'm sad about the tether. I knew what it represented, Jaron. And I'm sad it was cut.
I don't mean to sound rude, but can you feel sadness as the gods?
Hell kind of question is that? Scott, darling. Sorry, they get a little passionate, which is what I love about them. But I know it can be intimidating to those uninitiated, to their furor. We, like we told you earlier, Jaron, there is something of a spark of mortality that remains in Scott and myself still. We are, after all, the most mortal of the gods in some ways, but there's mortality in the rest of the eight too. We just started out that way. Risk and reward, Jaron. What do you think that is? At the end of the day, what is our domain? Why can we never be separated?
Risk and reward, it's about compromise. It's about doing everything that you can within reason to live life to the fullest, to be happy, to make other people happy, right? It's about love.
Bingo. Jackpot. That's right. It's about love. That's what risk and reward is. It's love. It's rupture and repair. It's diving in without knowing what's on the other side, but doing it anyway because you love.
It's devastation and reform.
Now you're getting it. And listen, despite the really foolish thing you've done, because let's not mince words here, we are impressed. You are holding on. There's something still keeping you tethered to your mission, isn't there? There's something still binding you, even though the tether is gone.
There is. I don't need magic to know that it's there. It's Oka. It's my love for Oka.
Well, love is magic, Jiran, and magic is love. But no matter how strong you are in this moment, which we see and we love, that thing in your chest will eventually kill you. This isn't a threat, Jiran. This isn't blackmail. It's a warning. Because we care about you. We don't want you to go like this. We want you to be able to have love, Jiran. Ultimately, that's what we want. That's what we want for all of you. We just want you to be happy, to help you get there. No strings attached. We don't expect you to give us anything here, but we have an idea about how you might be able to repair that tether. And Scott and Nectus walk forward toward you on either side, like sandwiching you, and then they meet each other in the middle behind you, right? And Scott holds out a hand, and Nectus holds out the other, and they interlock fingers, and then they just sort of weave their arms together until they sort of coalesce into a single being that is also two separate entities at once. A holographic form of their two faces, I think, interposed over each other. And when they speak, it's both of their voices ringing out at once as fully realized individuals and also a cohesive whole. You can do this, Jiran, with mutual respect, with trust. With love, you can build a stronger tether together with Oka. And as you ruminate on this, as you look up at these gods who are offering you this advice, we're gonna pan across the darkness to Sitlali. We push it on your eyes, and then we pull out to see that time around you has frozen as well. But instead of everything going dark, everything is bright and colorful, just like it was. People are just completely frozen, like they are pieces of the past suspended in fossilized amber. And you hear a voice. An inquisitive, fleeting, mercurial, ever-changing voice, oscillating between highs and lows, peaks and valleys, timbers and tones. A voice you've heard before, a voice that helped you through the empty.
Something's on your mind, Sitlali, my keeper. Something ails you, doesn't it? What is it?
And you see a fox, which is also a rabbit, which is also a deer, which is also a wolf.
You're gonna have to be a little more specific than that, Sen. There's a lot ailing me right now. And I think Sitlali, kind of like in the Silent Grove, but not to that level, steps out of their own body to kind of walk around and meet Sin, and also to observe the frozen tableau around them.
Sen's many tails. A monkey's tail, a wolf's tail, a fox's tail, a rabbit's tail flick and twitch, and then they finally coil into a somewhat stable, for now, form. That of a fox with antlers coming out of his forehead.
Well, a lot does seem to be ailing you right now, Sitlali, but I thought we might discuss the most recent. That manifestation of precepthood. When you were everything and nothing. There was anxiety within you, wasn't there?
Somewhere, yes, probably.
Tell me, my keeper, what do you see?
And the fox gets up from where it was sitting and walks like a casual circle. And when it comes back to the front, you see that a mirror has formed within the circle that it paced. Like a tall, body-length mirror that reflects yourself.
You know, my least favorite thing to do is look into mirrors, actually.
Why?
Because there's so much and so little at the same time. What's a mask? What's not a mask? What's really me? What's What is self when you think about it honestly? It's just pieces that we've put together ourselves. Have we stolen them from others? Are we born with them? What is a self?
Good question. I don't know if there's ever really a true answer to that. And I don't know if that's something to be afraid of.
Everything has answers. Everything has rules. The universe has rules. We have precepts. Everything has rules. Even if we break them. I thought I was getting better. But that was... that was more than being a paragon. I can still taste that power, and I don't know how to say no to that. Would I do it again? What part? And I think Sitlali accidentally looks himself in the eye in the mirror and does the thing that scares them the most. She stops talking, and they just kind of look and breathe. And they look beyond the ego and the bravado and the masks and the multiple attempts at grabbing for power that they don't want to think about at this moment in time. They were just a precept. That was fun. Anyway, we're gonna move beyond that. And I think she does hate what they see. But they look, and they keep looking. And I think for the first time, she sees someone worth saving. Someone who loves so much, like Jiran talked about, who has done so much. And they just breathe. It's about the journey, not getting any one place, isn't it?
The journey, Sitlali. The journey is beautiful. Every step on the journey is beautiful.
And as Sen speaks, you see your form change in the mirror. You see different stages of you. You as a child in the court. You as a hound of mercy. You as someone hunting for Oka, trying to find them. You as Oka that night in Kirtal. You in Dabathati. You in Jukai. You as keeper. You now. Flitting through all these various stages of you, all the past identities. You've become all the different people whose appearances you've adopted. Their mannerisms, their tics, their wants, their desires, their fears, making it a part of yourself and not a part of yourself all at once. All of these aspects of you fluttering past. And Sen says,
every stage, every form of you, Sitlali, is beautiful. From the seed to the sapling to the tree. You're right. Change isn't about getting somewhere. It's about making a choice every day about who you'll become the next and who you are now. A tree in perfect bloom. Well, perfection is subjective, right? That's not what it was meant to be. Children aren't unformed adults. They're children on their own terms, perfect the way they are. Perfection also, it doesn't exist. Not really, does it? Because eventually that so-called perfect tree will die. It'll decay. It'll turn into soil for the worms to eat, for new growth to push up past its loam. That rotting trunk is just as beautiful as that proud tall tree, as the unsure sapling, as the brand new sprout. I love all of you, all the time.
Oh?
You, ever changing, you are beautiful too.
I guess I never really thought about it that way. And I think Sitlali reaches out to touch the mirror and their hand goes through it. And she reaches inside of themselves and touches their own soul. I hate being by myself because I hate this, but maybe this isn't something worth hating, actually. Is that what you're here for? For this?
I'm just here to check in on a friend.
I was just a precept like 5 minutes ago. Like, that was...
Well,
that's not...
later, Sitlali.
Okay, yeah, because the implications of I'm doing it again.
Your mind ever turning just like my wheel. I hope it stops sometimes, though, to enjoy the road that it's on.
Me too. Also, I do never want to see an ox cart again. No offense.
And I think on that gurgling laugh, which is like a bubbling brook, which is like the gush of a waterfall, and the crackling of wildfire cutting through a forest. Through that smoke, through that laugh, through that ever-changing presence of Sen and nature and you, Sitlali, your beauty, we cut back to Jiran. Limbed in the spotlight, with Scott and Nectis cohered in front of you, showing you the correct way, the good way, the true way to build a stronger tether.
Jiran walks closer to Scott and Nectis, to this amalgamation of the two of them, and they hold their hands out for the gods, and they ask, a way to fix the tether so it still exists in some way. Is that what you're saying?
Of course it still exists in some way. As long as there's love, it will always exist. And you'll always have a chance to fix it. Risk and reward, Jiran. Rupture and repair. There is no relationship, divine or mortal, preceptual or current, that doesn't evolve some level of hurting the ones you love, forgiving them, forgiving yourself, healing, moving forward.
Thank you. And I think this is the first time in a long time, the first time since possibly Adolin, that one fateful night, that Jiran has truly felt thankful towards the gods. And he looks them in the eyes, in their eyes that are both of them at once. I just wanted a choice. I just wanted agency. For myself, for everybody, because don't we all deserve to be able to choose the risks that we take, the rewards that we reap? Thank you for giving me that today.
It's what we stand for, Jiran.
You can go your own way. So do the other gods. It's not just us who care, Jiran. I know that the path of a paragon is one mandated by fate, but we care. That's all we do as gods. We care so much. The Raven Queen. And you see like a ghostly raven flutter into existence around you as Nectis narrates, and you see crystal, icy tears streaming from that raven's eyes and falling onto the ground, creating little puddles of grief where it flies. The Raven Queen mourns these lost souls, every single one. Tears flow from her eyes. Galtanger. And you see a ray of light shining down on Dewey, who's frozen, like a third pillar of spotlight illuminating him, and you see like a miniature sun rolling inside the god jar, strapped to Dewey's waist. Galtanger just wants her paragon to be free. She truly does, and everyone else too. We don't do things selfishly all the time, for our own benefit, for our own survival, our own power. We love too. We want too. We hurt and we heal. All of us. Just like you. So you can go your own way, Jiran Cotter. And if it leads you back to us, then we will welcome you with open arms. And if it doesn't, we hope you make it.
Before I go, I just have one question. What is it that you want? I don't suppose somebody has asked you that lately.
We just want the journey to continue.
Me too. And I think for the first time again in a long time, Jiran feels like they actually have something in common with the gods. Like for for once they actually agree on something. They want the same thing. They need the same thing in this moment. And I think that freedom to be able to make a choice here, it feels light. It feels airy. And I think it makes the burning hole inside of Duran's soul just a little bit easier to bear. Not by much, because it's still there. But I think emotionally it makes it a little bit easier to bear.
And Duran and Sitlali, the world resumes. And we're going to cut to break there. So we will be back in 10 minutes, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in so far to Arc 7, Episode 7 of Transplanar RPG, The Second Stranger. Enjoy the music. See you in 10 minutes. Bisho, bisho.
Welcome back from break, everybody. We are resuming Arc 7, Episode 7, the penultimate episode of the entirety of Arc 7 and the grand finale for this coalition of people. I am so excited to do the final bridge of this. Content warnings for this particular episode and our campaign in general may include fantasy violence, body horror, gore, blood and bloodletting, apocalypse, trauma and grief, death of loved ones, familial struggles, complex and complicated relationships, romance and references to sexual entanglements, medical experimentation, monsters and monstrosity, and a teenager in danger. Our cast lines do include harm to children, and while this arc does feature a youth in a dangerous situation, please be assured above the table that she will never be in any danger or come to any real harm. She's also not being manipulated or mentally controlled and is in full agency and capacity of herself. Use !CW for a full list of these content warnings and !HANA, HANA, for a reminder of our particular content warning around a youth in danger. So with that out of the way, let's hop right back into the session. Dewey and Vasanti. Hana, this entire time, has been going off about ideas of what to put in the message. She's come up with no fewer than 15 or 17 various ideas of vastly varying quality and substance. And there's a pause in her thinking as she's sort of bouncing off of Dusty kind of reluctantly. Like, Dusty will pitch an idea, then Hana will shut it down. And Dusty will pitch another idea, and Hana will shut it down, but then, like, take a part of that idea and pitch it as her own. And, like, it's like an organically emerging, annoying younger sibling and cool older sibling dynamic that's happening at the table. And there's a pause in what Hana's saying as she sort of scratches, I think, like, the top of her forehead in a way very reminiscent of Uolani, as she's continuing to try to think of other things to put in the message. What do the two of you do or say?
I think Vasanti would just look to Dewey and be like, do we interject and try to, like, you're the scientist, there's lots of ideas, what do we do, Dewey?
I think that Dewey this whole time has, like, been trying to interject with, like, ideas of his own as Hana has been going on and on, but usually she just, like, they talk at the same time and he always defers to her. Just kind of fascinated by what her brain is coming up with. Have these things are they like words? Like descriptions of things? Like physical objects that she wants to include?
They're everything. She's like pitching like, what if we could gather up the rarest tree in Endaki, but we probably don't have enough time for that. Dad, can your god jar create a tree or organic matter?
Yes. Maybe a tree is good, but we're appealing to the precepts.
Right.
Maybe we aim a little.
Right, we should aim higher than a tree, but how about this? And Hana seems to have like a light bulb moment that like goes off as she looks back at the group, and as Jiran and Silali, I think like come back to your bodies on this. The best parts of yourselves. You should put the best parts of yourselves and what you think the best parts of Endake are into this message, and I can send it off. I think that will get their attention.
That's a pretty tall ask. What's the best part of ourselves? How do we put that into a message? And Dewey looks at Vasanti.
Vasanti thinks about it, and I think she looks at her hands that like have some engagement and or wedding rings on them. And I think she thinks to herself like, well, the best parts of me is probably these relationships, and she like holds up her hand with the wedding rings on them. What if I gave my wedding rings? Love is the important thing, right?
Yeah, that could work. You should put a part of yourself in it too. So like if they get it, they're not just like, what are these strange bands of metal? Because I don't know if they know what a wedding ring is or if they understand the concept of weddings. They might know everything and nothing at once. I don't know. I've never met a precept before. Only Lilith has. But yeah, I really love that. That's a great idea, Vasanti.
And I think she slips off both rings and uses a little bit of like minor illusion and maybe a little bit of her like summoned draconic spirit to like basically make this almost like a band around them that keeps them together of like a little miniature baby dragon that like just swirls around them and keeps them together in a loving form.
Rev steps forward and actually cups those rings in her hand as well.
places her other hand over it, and all of you feel a little pulse of magic vibrate out from where Rev's cupping it. And when she hands it back out to Hana, nothing visibly has changed. But Rev says very seriously, I put a little bit of myself into these as well. A feeling of my love for Vasanti and for Leaf. Hopefully it'll read. And she hands it over to Hana, who accepts it, nodding urgently, and gingerly puts it into a pouch. Okay, what about the rest of you?
Well, if we're doing keepsakes, Duran, I think, will go to one of his ears and pull off the silver earring that had been a gift from Kane, that have been a gift from Oka, and will also pluck off one of the gossamer threads on their horns and will wrap it, kind of creating like a makeshift pendulum, and we'll hand that over to Hana.
What are these?
The earring is, like Vasanti, a token of my love, of my relationships, and the thread, piece of home, our interconnectedness to everyone and everything.
As you hand the thread over, Duran, tell me, what memory, what aspect of home do you imbue it with?
The first time that Duran and Gentle met. I think they were very, very young. They were children still in elementary school, and I think it was the first day of school. Duran didn't really have any friends at this point, and they were kind of struggling with being excited for school because of it. They felt pretty lonely. And he noticed that there was another kid as well that nobody ever really hung out with. And today, there was like a bunch of kids that were like making fun of Gentle, like little baby Gentle. And Duran, even then, lonely and terrified, still knew that that was wrong. And they went over and told those kids off. And ever since then, the two of them had been inseparable. I think it's that image of Duran and Gentle as children sitting together on the ice of Zima Lake, one comforting the other, and then quickly those tears wiping away and them talking about something exciting, the animals that are in the area and how they both find them so fascinating, and a quick friendship being formed.
Yeah, Hana accepts it and can feel the weight of that memory hanging on that thread, and like gently winds the earring and the thread together and puts it in her pouch.
I think Dewey reaches into the god jar. He tips it over into his hand, and you see the wedding ring turned mind shielding ring fall out of it. And it's got a pearl embedded in the band, traditional of, I think, Uhanian weddings. And he takes the pearl, and Hana would remember Dewey sitting outside in his workshop, in his forge, making this ring, and it being a rainy day, and her being sort of sulking around wanting to go out and play, but it was raining, and he's like, no, you'll catch a cold. And he used this ring to call for daybreak, to push the clouds away, to clear the skies, and have it become just a beautiful day for young Hana to go out and play with her friends. And he takes the ring, and he snaps the pearl off, and I think he grinds it into like a fine dust to be more easily woven and incorporated into this message. And it represents the joy of this world, unadulterated joy like he used to see from Hana as a child. And he holds out a handful of this pearlescent dust to Hana.
Hana recognizes the ring. You see familiarity flicker across her eyes, and then a sadness as memory of you and Ualani's marriage, what it used to be, flutters briefly on her face. And she takes out a vial and accepts the dust and corks it. And she holds it close to her chest for a minute, almost like she can feel that memory you imbued it with, and then places it into her pouch.
Lolly unshoulders their bag of holding and looks everyone dead in the eye and says, none of you saw this. None of this happened. Understood?
Okay, sure.
Cautious nodding.
Good. I will know if one of you says anything to her about this. And they reach into the bag and come back with a javelin that appears to have been custom made from wood when they were on vacation, that has some very intimate things carved into it. And Sitlali holds it and I think pulls on the weave and just kind of wraps it in that as they remember that trip and how they wouldn't shut the fuck up, but also how Mercy, how she feels about Mercy and how they feel about Gentle and how they feel about anyway, and just all of that wrapped into this javelin.
A pointy stick. Great. Hana accepts it. But as soon as she touches it, she pauses, like feeling the weight of the sentiment, of the value, of the intimacy in it. A great offering. And she puts it in the pouch, and it sort of disappears, even though the pouch is nowhere near big enough to hold it. Definitely a pouch of holding. She puts it in carefully and like cinches the mouth. And Dusty says, wait, I haven't put anything in it. Right. All right, what's going in the pouch for you, Dusty? I was thinking, I mean, only if Dad says okay. But I was thinking that, you know, because I kind of have a body, I kind of don't, and I'm kind of scared of what'll happen when we get back to the now. Like, will this body stay? Will it go? Will I discorporate into nothingness? Well, theoretically speaking, that was a rhetorical question. Big sis, what if I went with it? What if I went, you know, because I don't know how the message is getting out there, if it's sort of like a little bottle rocket you're gonna shoot up there, but I could, you know, what if there was someone driving the bottle rocket, you know? Like I could help get it to Fate and Magic and bring them back here? But only if Dewey says okay.
Are you sure about that? We don't know, like you said, we don't know where it goes. We don't know if it comes back. I have plans for a cool new body for you later.
Right, but those plans won't matter if if everything ends, right?
I guess.
So is that a yes or is that a no? Because it kind of sounded like a maybe, and I don't really know what to do with that.
Okay, you can go, but just know that I can't lose you too. Come back for me, please.
I promise. All right. Okay. I can try to widen the mouth of this pouch. Oh, no. I got it. I can, I just have to focus really, 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 really hard on what it was like to not have a body, I think. Is it working? No, not exactly. But I do, what I was trying to say, before you cut me off, Dusty, is I am certain, 100% sure you won't discorporate once we go back to the now. This garden, where Lilith sent all of you, is essentially like a miniature version of the reality she wants to replace the journey with once everything ends. The garden will become the operating metaphor for the logic that undergirds all of reality. So this is real, and it's also not real. And we'll carry a piece of that real, not realness when we come back to the now, which means I'm certain you will remain in your body once we return to the workshop chamber, Dusty. And I think once we're there, you can probably successfully turn back into data, consciousness, that I can then put inside the pouch. But that just means the rest of you have to distract her really, really, really well. Because if Dusty's gonna be discorporating into this pouch and I'm gonna be running around grabbing things, Lilith can't look at us.
We'll make sure she can't.
Thank you. All right then, okay. Sounds like a plan. I think I got something from everyone. I feel pretty good about this little pouch of all of our hopes and dreams. I hope it reaches Fate and Magic. One last thing that might help you all distract Lilith. I've been her mentee for at least, I think I'm probably the one person on Endake that knows her the most outside of herself. She doesn't have any attachment at all. She doesn't care about anything except for her plan. Lilith understands conceptually what love is. She knows it, but she thinks it's a source of suffering. An insidious source of suffering. She prefers emotions like fear and hatred. She thinks they're more pure.
more honest. She thinks love cloaks itself in rapture, but then it hurts. She says it's a never-ending cycle of suffering. So, just keep that in mind when you're trying to distract her and appeal to her, or whatever you want to do.
We can do that.
Great. All right. Are we ready to get out of here?
Yeah.
We should go before I change my mind and go back to beginning precept, please.
Okay,
Right.
let's go now. Let's go.
Okay, yes. All right. Okay, I think the way Lilith does it is like this. And Hana squeezes her eyes shut with deep focus and concentration and squeezes her hands into fists by her side. Like she's focusing really, really, really hard to the extent that you see like a bead of sweat trickle down the side of her face, like down her throat and disappear into her tunic, like under the collar of her lab coat. And then slowly but surely, the garden begins to disappear around you, and the lab begins to bleach back into existence. Lilith's private workshop is exactly how all of you left it. Viridescent, a perfect, imperfect blend of technology, sterile equipment, and her own beautiful garden, her ontological framework that she wishes to replace the journey with. And up upon that elevated dais, sitting in her obsidian throne of black bleached bone, Lilith. Every wire, every tube filled with pulsating black void ichor connects onto that throne, feeding her, empowering her ritual to lure the seed out of the depths of the Euclid chasm and bid it to annihilate Endake. As all of you bleed back into existence, still with her elbow cocked on one of the armrests, still with her fingers perched upon her jawbone, cocks her head to the side, and a genuine flicker of surprise, and then immediately disdain roils in the bleached blue depths of her eyes. Ah, all of you are back. Hana, I did wonder where you went. Where did my protege go? Don't tell me you're the one who helped these interlopers escape. Oh, there's another one of you. And her eyes fall on Dusty, who does have form, is here in the now looking around wild-eyed, and Dusty freezes and looks back up at Lilith, like deer caught in the headlights, is just completely stiff and looks terrified. I have to admit, I'm halfway impressed you were able to get out of the garden. Tell me, did each of you enjoy your visions of grandeur? I know at least one of you did.
I think Jiran, knowing that we don't have a lot of time, starts to walk in the opposite direction of whatever way Hana seems to be going in the laboratory to try and get Lilith's attention. And they know that this is going to hurt, but this is the easiest way to get her attention. He's going to try and tug on that connection that Lilith has to the empty and try and sever it. They recognize it's a tall order, but it's a good way to get her attention.
Okay, Jiran, remember what happened the last time you tried to do this in earnest? Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to roll a D100.
That's okay. It's for a good cause.
A note to the audience. We did take a short rest in Eden, so people regained some spell slots. I asked them all to roll a D4 and regain that many spell slots because I'm a benevolent god myself, and to reset their hit points. So Jiran is back up at like 70 something, but...
I got 4.
You rolled a 4 on the D100? Okay, roll the second one.
81? That's more hit points than I have!
Connie's screaming in delight.
Oh my god, that's more hit points! I have relentless endurance, just so we know, but, like...
I will let you use that feature in this instance to prevent yourself from insta-dying. So, Duran, as you try to tug at that connection, I think how this manifests is Lilith jerks her gaze from the rest of the group and snaps it onto you. And for a split second, she's completely focused on you, as you know she can sense your attempt to sever that connection to the empty, but she just... Try again. You are a stubborn little thing, aren't you? Like I said, let me show you true power. And she tugs back. And Duran, all of you see now, a hole whirls open in Duran's chest. It's no longer just inside you, it's visible now. We see a plate of darkness spin into existence above your sternum. It's like someone punched a fist through reality through your chest, right? It's like completely two-dimensional, but also eight-dimensional. It's not really a hole, it's a non-hole, but it also is. And it just sort of spins into non-existence and is there, and it slowly, Duran, begins to widen. How are you not immediately consumed? What does your relentless endurance look like?
I think, were it not for the conversation that they had had with Scott and Nectus, I think they would have been consumed in this moment. I think that conversation with Scott and Nectus helped center and ground Duran in the weave, in the magic of Andake, in divinity, in all of that. Bring him a little bit closer to that connection that he had been missing, just a little bit closer to goodness, to purity, to light. That little bit of connection that is there, I think, manages to pull him back from the empty just enough so that he doesn't die.
Fascinating. Oh, but you are hanging on by a thread, and you know what I do to threads, don't you, Duran? And Lilith starts to hold up her hand and form that like scissor shape again. But now I think the rest of you get a chance to jump in and do something else to distract her.
I think Vasanti is going to start running towards Duran, and as she does, her bracer starts glowing bright green and purple, and her red dragon claw mage hand at the end starts actually crawling out of her arm as she casts Summon Draconic Spirit, and a red fire dragon starts coming out of her to go after Lilith.
Yeah, a little like red sprightly fire drake form, kind of like a Biku's companion, so like coils out of your body and moves to attack her. So is this like an attack roll you make?
I guess, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Go for it.
It doesn't hit. It's a 3.
Okay, but you're also trying to distract her, right? So I'll have you, in addition to that.
Yeah, it's going there. Even if it fails, that's not the point. The point is to distract.
Yes, so I'll have you roll either deception or performance along with that d20.
Remember that time when I asked, hey, Connie, because Vasanti's trying to tell the truth, can I get rid of my deception and put that into something else? I guess deception is just as good as my performance, so I'll do deception, I guess.
What'd you get?
I got 15.
Okay. You send the Drake spirit forward. It whistles through the air, right? All fire and roiling teeth, its claws lunging at her. She looks at it curiously. And then flicks her wrist to the side, and we see it fold into emptiness and just vanish. You see, Vasanti, the thing about being on the verge of precepthood is you start to learn how to bend reality.
Vasanti is using that time to get between Duran and Lilith. It doesn't matter what kind of bending of reality you think you can do, because at the end of the day, we're bonded together by something that you will never have, which is love and friendship, and you can't take that away from us.
Oh, is that your master plan? Is that it? To defeat me with the power of love and friendship. You know how weak your love is. You know how fragile, how vulnerable these attachments make you, Vasanti. I thought you would enjoy your time on that hill.
The only thing I thought of that place is that it's so boring without other people to be with me.
And this is why you will never transcend, but I will. While this conversation is happening, Hana has run off in like the opposite direction of Jiran. She's like dodged behind several like tall, thick, curving vines, like hiding behind them, and Dusty's gone with her. And she's like kind of annoyedly grabbed Dusty to like make them navigate this area with more fluidity because they're still getting used to having a body and they're kind of clumsy. And Sitlali and Dewey, as Jiran and Vasanti run distraction, the two of you see Hana and Dusty like crouching at the base of a huge console, and Hana's hurriedly unscrewing the panels as quickly but as quietly as she can. And she has, at this point, pulled the panel down and is ripping wires out. And she seems to be like improvising a device of some sort. It almost kind of looks like the base of a flashlight currently, but she's in the middle of putting it together. It's like halfway done. It's like 50% there. It's not fully made quite yet. Dewey and or Sitlali, what did the two of you do?
Dewey stands at the foot of the steps up to the dais that Lilith is sitting on the throne. And he takes like a breath, he steels himself. I don't think she can see him because it's a very tall dais and he's short, but he takes a breath, steels himself, and starts going up the stairs with as much confidence as he can muster against this woman who ruined his life and everyone else's life. And he makes himself look as, I'm gonna regret saying this, he makes himself look as intimidating as possible.
How do you do that? Do you use like the god jar to help like fashion some glamour on you, or do you puff your chest up? Like, how are you trying to intimidate her?
I think it's just like purely just him like changing his posture, the way that he walks. He's also going to cast Intellect Fortress on himself because that who knows what the heck she's capable of. And he goes up those steps, eyes fixed on Lilith. I don't know if she's paying attention to him.
Her eyes do slide from Vasanti to you as you advance up the stairs, and that same predatory, curious smile coils along her mouth as she considers you. Cardu, back here to snivel at my feet.
I would never. I have some choice words for you.
Choice words, now do you? I suppose I have some time before the seed is here. Please tell me, what anger would you like to air out against your former employer?
Okay, well, this is uncomfortable now that she's directly asking for me to be mad at her.
She's like toying with you, right? She's playing with you. She like sees that your posture's different, but there's still a part of her that's like not entirely taking you seriously, but she does cock her head to the side and she says, what is that? What, some illusion of confidence you're trying to project? Don't tell me that this is the first and only time in your life you're ever...
I punch her.
Okay, make an attack roll! Go for it!
19.
I just have a question for you, Dewey. Do you want to hit her?
Yeah,
you do, don't
for
you?
the narrative's sake, yeah.
Yeah, okay, then I will let you hit her, but she'll get to do something back to you. So
sure.
why don't you roll damage on that punch?
Because I'm wearing the armor that Tonga made me, I get 1d... Okay, well, that's 3 plus 5, 8 points of thunder damage. And what I want to do is just like knock her off her game.
Sure, throw her off. You're like, I'm not gonna kill her.
Yeah.
I am just trying
to do...
Exactly. You're trying to rile her up. You cock your feathered arm back and you punch her. There's an explosion of thunderous noise, and her head actually kind of whips to the side as you punch her. She was not expecting you to strike her, to even attempt to attack her in any way. And there's a pause actually, and for the first time, this entire time, she lowers her hand from her jaw. She lowers it onto the armrest while her face is still turned to the side, and we see some like thunder and lightning smoldering off her cheek. And then she slowly turns her head back to look at you. And for once, you see an emotion flickering in her limpid blue eyes. That is not disgust. That is not amusement. That is not vague curiosity. It's anger. Cardu Quirk. And her voice like rumbles in the back of her throat. I never knew you had it in you. Well, I hope this was worth your courage. And poof, exploding into existence behind her head, that single eye of the mindless. Dewey, make a dex save. Yes! Okay. So
No.
it was a nat one.
You are about this, Connie.
Okay, cool. Yay! So, what happens?
Should I say that for the podcast? Should I tell? Or do we want your screaming to tell the story?
I think my scream probably can tell the story, but why don't you tell the audience what you got?
It's a natural one.
Yay!
Yeah. And then we'll splice in my scream of pleasure after that. Okay, great. So, Dewey, you freeze as that multifaceted, ever-changing mercurial pupil in the center of the eye whirls through the iris and fixes on you. And you freeze. Your feathers stiffen, right? Your eyes are fixed on it, and you feel Galtanger in your god jar begin to roil, trying to break you free from this, right? She's working, you feel that miniature radiance thrumming against your hip. But it's like a tractor beam, just like in Jukai, pulling you up. You float up, like your feet pick up off of the dais, and you float in the air, and you begin to see the edges of your feathers disintegrate, like they start to crumble into dust. So the first order of business is you're gonna take a little bit of damage, just a smidge. What are you at?
121.
You take 119 points of force damage.
Just make that number up?
No, do you want me to not take the average and roll the dice? Max's head shaking. No. You take 119 points of force damage as you levitate up into the air and are held there, and parts of your body begin to flake off. And pain isn't really the right way to describe it, Dewey. It's like you're bleeding into nothingness. It's the same sensation that is currently roiling inside Jiran. It was the same sensation that almost tore Vasanti apart. It is the same sensation that Adam bit Sitlali's mouth with. And now you feel it too, Dewey. The other thing is you're gonna be frozen there, technically for like the next round, but we're not like strictly in initiative. So you're just gonna be frozen there for like a minute. You can still talk, but like you're like restrained. And you also have to answer a difficult question. What does the mindless obliterate within you?
I don't know. Dewey has like 4 personality traits. You know what? Fuck it. Can I say some of his ability for compassion?
Yeah, part of his capacity for empathy and compassion. We can do that. You feel any last vestige of like any sort of empathy, any sort of kindness within you also start to flake off. And I think it's replaced with this kind of cold fury at Lilith. She's down there looking up at you, angry, taunting you. She wants to crush you, Dewey, like a bug. That is what will actually give her satisfaction, even though she says nothing gives her satisfaction because satisfaction brings suffering. She looks up at you, and that facade of gentleness flakes off and is eaten, is taken, is consumed by the mindless. And you, Dewey, your eye falls on part of the throne that Lilith is sitting on. And almost like an out-of-body experience, because you're in the middle of literally getting disintegrated, a part of your mind
recognizes it. Her left armrest, which is what her arm's been on this entire time, that's been propping her up, looks very familiar. It doesn't quite look like a bone. It almost looks like a panel you made. A panel that you affixed to something you thought wasn't a weapon, but ended up being one back when you were employed by the URL, and it clicks in your head. That is a critical component, almost like a conduit or some sort of circuit board, that's powering the entirety of this ritual throne that Lilith is commanding. If you could just wrench that off from underneath her elbow, you could disrupt this ritual in a significant way. But at the same time, some sort of gut feeling, some sort of instinct, I think, pulls you backward. And you hear, even though you're frozen, you hear Hana whisper something fearfully under her breath. Call it a paragon's perception, call it a father's love. But you hear Hana go, oh, shit, oh no, where is it? Oh no. No, I need this conduit. This won't work if I don't have the conduit. Dad, I need you right now. Your god jar, it can make something for me, right? Please, Dad. And Dewey, suspended up there, you feel the last of Galtanger's rays surge through you as you start to break free from these chains that bind you, as Galtanger refuses to let you stay trapped any longer. She is freedom incarnate. She will not let you stay rooted here in one place. And as you start to free fall out of this tractor beam, and you see Lilith's eyes widen in surprise and start to flick over in the direction of Hana's voice, as she starts to break free from this distraction, as you start to tumble through the air, there is a choice to be made here. Are you gonna go for that panel and spite and disrupt Lilith and potentially stop her from calling the seed? Or are you gonna help your daughter?
I think to Sitlali telepathically. I say the armrest, the conduit. And I think that's all he has time for before he drops to his knees, and as soon as he's able to, basically just like throws himself headfirst off of the dais he can fly towards Hana's direction, towards the sound of her voice.
Ooh, yeah, okay. Dewey, you turn and you soar toward Hana, who's calling out for the help of her father. And I think you land there in a flurry of feathers, Lilith still on the throne, looking genuinely shocked you were able to break free of the mindless's beam, and her eyes are now fixed on you, where she sees, for the first time since this challenge began, Hana, Dusty, and Dewey huddled in one corner working on something. Her eyes narrow. She starts to raise her other arm. Sitlali, what do you do?
Question for the GM. So Dusty remained corporeal upon returning from the garden.
Yes.
Hana said that everyone brings a little something back with them from the garden.
Yes. Right? Go on.
So Sitlali was a precept.
Okay.
So there might be a little residual preceptual power there, perhaps, one might say. Is it fair to say that?
If you use it, you're gonna spend it and it'll be gone, Sitlali. But for now, it remains.
Sitlali, I think, first of all, starts a little bit at hearing Dewey in their head unbidden, because she's like, I didn't cast sending. Who the fuck did that? Sitlali heads for the dais. Sitlali does not like the mindless being there, but it sure is there. Sitlali gets up in Lilith's face. Again. How tall is Lilith?
She's sitting, so it's hard to tell, but she has a kind of lanky, wiry physique.
Sitlali lifts Lilith up out of the throne by the collar and kisses her. And in that kiss is change. Sitlali wants to use whatever residual precept ability they have brought back to make sort of, well, make is a strong word, to add an on and off switch to Lilith's empathic ability. That blessing, that curse that drove her to this.
You're trying to help her?
Yeah, I guess you could say that I am.
Okay. Okay. You lift Lilith up by the lapels and you kiss her. And you funnel that last little bit of spark. It's like the residue of warmth after the sun's gone down, right? That still remains on your body. You funnel it out of yourself and into her, trying to help staunch that raw nerve, that open wound that is her consciousness, that she can't help but feel all the time. You channel it through that kiss. Oh. And she leans away from your lips and looks you dead in the eyes, and you feel one of her bony, thin fingers stroke the side of your cheek. Sit lolly, sit lolly, sit lolly. There is very little, perhaps nothing left in me worth saving. And she slides out of your grasp. She just disappears. She's just gone. She like slides down and is gone, and you feel that last bit of your perceptual power vanish. It's like funneling it toward a black hole. It's just sucked in, and it's gone. Even light can't escape its pull. And in that moment where the two of you locked eyes, you see the eyes of a woman who is completely, thoroughly spent. She's exhausted. The only thing that keeps her going is the promise of precepthood. And she's gone. I think you're left holding her overcoat. And she actually just kind of reappears. It's almost like she sinks through the floor and then reappears upward somewhere else. Before we get there, we pan over to Dewey and Hana. In that few precious moments that Sitlali bought for your group, Dewey, you see Hana is hunched over what fully looks like, you realize it's not really a flashlight, it almost just looks like a tube, like a rolled up scroll. And she's trying to like put something, there's like a hollow in one area that is empty. And she's like, conduit. Dad, there you are. Can Galtanger Forge make something? This just sort of needs something to channel power through. It needs like a really pure crystal or something, like a substance of some sort.
I guess I can try. I feel like it's running low on power, but I can appeal to Galtanger.
Please, Dad, please, can you?
And Dewey takes a glance over at Lilith to make sure they're not in any danger.
You see Sitlali kissing her?
No! He turns away anyways and closes his eyes and holds the god jar out and says a prayer to Galtanger. Please just let me do this for my daughter. Please let me help her. I haven't been able to do that in so long.
And you feel magic, like daylight, like a shaft of pure sun, radiate from the god jar and shaft through your chest, beaming and divine. What do you pull out of the god jar?
I think it is that same spark of Galtanger that we've seen before, but it's not wild and untamed and enormous. It's contained within like a crystal, the exact size and dimensions of the slot that Hana was needing to fill. And it's just shining from within. It's blinding, but not in a way that hurts to look at. It just falls right out of the jar into Dewey's hand, and he holds it out to Hana.
Oh, I love that. Hana looks reverent. Wow. She picks it up and slots it in, and it clicks in perfectly. Okay, Dusty? And Dusty, standing there, looks at their sister, looks at their dad, squeezes their eyes shut, squeezes their fists, and boop, vanishes. Almost with like a faint popping noise, and you see like almost like a coiling kind of like grayish substance floating in the air that you realize for 2 seconds is Dusty's soul. And then Hana like almost like grabs it and then stuffs it into the rolled up scroll, right? And it's just, it's like siphoned into it, and we see that like bright golden radiant gem like pulse as it absorbs Dusty inside. And Hana goes, okay, here goes. And she like looks skyward and points this like scroll upward, like in the direction of like the stars, the cosmos, the after, the beyond. And you feel magic start to tense and billow around her, and you see her hair start to lift up, and you see the scroll begin to disappear as she's muttering some sort of prayer under her breath and trying to get it past the empty. And then, Dewey, you hear Lilith's voice in your ear behind you. This journey is so meandering, so pointless. My garden, Dewey, I promise, will be curated perfection, a better mode of reality for everyone. There will be no suffering. There will be no pain. Everything will have its preordained place, and nothing will want anything beyond that. Sentience shall become an unnecessary attachment, culled by my new precepthood. Hana, you disappoint, but you do not surprise. There's hope for you yet. What did I tell you about attachments? Let me get rid of yours. And almost like in slow motion, Lilith directly behind you, Dewey, flashes her hand back, and we see there is a blade of pure darkness gripped in her fingers, a shard of Oblivion's power itself. And she starts to plunge it toward your heart. Spiraling into existence between you and Lilith is the Myriad. This entire time he'd been absent, he'd been hiding, preserving himself. But in this final hour, we see this dog-headed man, eyes wide, as this blade of darkness is plunged inside his chest, where his heart might be if he had one, if he weren't a demon. Oh, Dewey, I never asked to be a hero. And let me tell you, I do not care for it. Lilith rips, I think, this plate of darkness out of the Myriad's heart, and we see just this pure black blood starting to slough down the front of his perfect suit, starting to like pool around his feet, and he staggers a little bit, even as Hana finishes muttering her spell, and there's like an explosion of radiance from her with Galtanger's magic as that parcel, that message gets away. It disappears, it vanishes, it's sent. And the Myriad goes, go. Now. All of you. And Lilith goes, I don't think so. And conjures another blade and tries to stab past the Myriad, but then the Euclid chasm yawns wide in front of you, like a gaping wound in the flesh of Andake. Dr. Aluso's homestead stands, as it always has, part of it collapsed, inverted on itself from the various shakes and tremors that have been cascading across the plains since Adolin passed. Duran, Sitlali, Dewey, Vasanti, Rev, Hana. You all have been teleported, zapped, returned back to this place. A bit of the Myriad's magic still sloughing off your bodies. The sky is a terror of pure red crimson. Your nightmare is real. It's here, and it can't be avoided any longer. And we're gonna end the session there. So that has been the last episode of Arc 7 for this particular group. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I have been your game master and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me all across the internet at ByConnieChang, ByConniechang. I'm gonna pass along introductions up and over to Quinn.
Hey, I'm Quinn. My pronouns are they, them. What the fuck? I write games. I played Sitlali today. They, she pronouns. She is going to be fine after all of this, I'm sure. Woof and ouch and oof and ooh. Yeah, buy my games. Hire me for sensitivity. I do stuff and things at Quintastic_ on Twitter. Connie, what? And I'm gonna pass outros to Erica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica, she, her pronouns, and I played Vasanti, I believe in the power of love, not sure so. And yeah, you can find me at Erica Newgirl on Twitter, and you can watch me on Twitch at Erica Please. I'm going to pass it on to Max.
Hey, it's me, Max. My pronouns are they, them. I've played Dewey. Can't believe I'm having a sad gay moment. The last sad gay moment with the Myriad, I guess, right here, right now. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Starchmonger, and also you can find my sewing business on Etsy and Instagram at Stitchmonger. Come check me out. I'll be recovering from this emotional roller coaster. I'll pass it to Humna.
Hello, everybody. My name is Humna. I use any and all pronouns, and I am a TTRPG performer. You can find me on Twitter at @shahid_, where I talk about all the different projects I'm a part of. Today, I have been drawn Godler, who uses they, he pronouns, who is at -8 max HP. How? What? Connie, go.
Yes, thanks for tuning in. We will be back next week with the conclusion of the entire arc with the Chasm Party, who are having a party of their own. So see you next Saturday at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time right here at Transplanar RPG on Twitch.tv. In the meantime, we're going to be raiding someone really cool, no doubt. Toss them a follow if you like their stuff. Use the raid message in chat. Translators, play shifting into your stream. Tell them how the session went and tune into their stuff. Tell the translator sent you. We love you so much. We will see you in a week. Bijou for the last time with this group of people. Goodbye!